you.
Exactly.
So I'll make you host now, Trey.
Thank you.
So thanks very much once again, Trish, for coming along.
No
And,
problem.
oh, Donna in here. I made Alberta McBride host there. You've got your video and all set up,
Well,
Alberta.
Bert, I'm looking forward to your wee talk.
Aye, it'll be great,
Yes.
Alberta. Hope you've worked on this as well prepared.
You wait a long time.
You're on, Trish. Yeah, nearly. Honestly, Roberta, I nearly clicked on your name to make you host.
I would
Probably
like
the
to
best
see.
talk we'll have had.
I don't think so.
Can you see my slides?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to ask you to put yourselves on mute because I'm easy distracted and you don't want to keep me any longer than you need me to talk. So I have put you on mute if you're not on mute. But please unmute yourself if you want to ask me any questions at any stage or give me a wee wave or whatever, because I do like people to ask questions and things like that. So we're going to talk a wee bit about anxiety management. And some of you will have heard this wee presentation before, and maybe that's okay to hear it again. It doesn't do any harm maybe to hear the same information again if we're maybe needing to remind ourselves of certain aspects of it. But I've actually just recently done some more training in anxiety management. So maybe the next time I do this, it might look a wee bit different. So this is hopefully the last time you'll see this wee presentation. I just wanted to let you know as well that at the minute I am discussing with the Macmillan team in Antrim about doing an anxiety management face-to-face course, a short course for about 4 weeks, somewhere in the Northern Trust. It'll be the Northern Trust, Macmillan OT and myself will be running a wee course for about 4 weeks. It'll be in either, well, we're actually looking for locations at the moment, but we've made inquiries about Antrim, what do you call the place up in Antrim Castle Gardens? There's a facility there that we could use, and then also there's a facility near Abbey Centre that we're looking at. But I'll give you more details next year because I'll have more details next year. But it's just while I'm doing this presentation on anxiety management, if any of you are interested in looking a wee bit deeper into the management of anxiety and stress, then this is a possibility coming up in probably the spring of next year, but I'll give you more details when I get them. And probably we would be taking referrals either directly from yourselves or through your respiratory nurse specialist. We're hoping that she would make referrals to us. So that's just a wee heads up. It's not even official yet, but all being well, that will be in the new year. So anxiety management. So why is this something that we need to be thinking about? So anxiety or stress, whatever you call it, it's all the same thing. It's a very common symptom of any illness. In fact, you don't even have to be physically unwell to suffer from anxiety, as you well know. It's something that can be treated or managed, and we shouldn't just accept it. We should try and find ways to deal with it and to work with it and recognize it, and therefore put things in place to try and cope with it. It's not the stress itself that actually negatively impacts on our well-being, but it's our inability to recover from that stress. So stress is something that we need to have. We need to have that element of reaction and reaction to difficult things in order to keep us safe. So, for example, it's because of stress that you don't walk out into the middle of the road and get knocked down by a car. It's because of your body's reactions. If you see a speeding car coming, that you go, oh, and you step back and you don't get knocked down. It's really important that we have those stress reactions. But what can happen is when we start to feel the effects, the physical effects of stress in our body, sometimes those physical effects get out of hand and we start to become overwhelmed maybe by the stress or the anxiety. And that's when it becomes a problem. So what I always say to you is, you know, it's understandable. It's completely understandable that that you would feel stressed at some stage because you've been through a lot. All your hospital appointments, all the going to the doctor, getting things changed, even the stuff as Tom has been sharing with us about, you know, not getting your oxygen on time and things like that. All of those things can be very stressful, particularly when you're not well. And when you're not well physically, it impacts on your ability to deal with stress and anxiety as well. So you've been through a lot. So what am I saying? I'm saying give yourselves a bit of a break because it's okay. You're what you're feeling is really normal. If you're feeling a bit anxious or stressed, it's very, very normal because you've been through a lot. But what can I do? Well, I'm an occupational therapist. So part of my job is trying to teach people coping strategies. And I love this wee picture here of the wee brain doing his weightlifting. I think we know all about physical health and we know how to keep ourselves physically fit. But I don't think maybe we all know how to keep ourselves mentally fit. And we know that you can't be physically fit just by sitting and doing nothing. Isn't that right? If you want to be physically fit, you have to actually do things. There's actions that you have to do in order to become physically fit. And it's the same with our mental health. We can't just be mentally healthy. There's actually things we need to do to ensure and to continue to feel mentally healthy and to avoid mental ill health. So I think that's really important. I think sometimes we forget that, you know, this is something that we have to be actively involved in and actively think about in keeping ourselves mentally fit. And I'm going to talk about a few things that might help you to do that. So we're going to have some discussion about different coping strategies. I'm going to talk to you about different interventions that might help, like breathing and relaxation. We're going to have a look at focusing on goals and our occupation. I'm just thinking about problem solving and different wee strategies that can help us to manage worry. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what anxiety and stress actually is. We're going to find out why our body responds to stressful situations in the way that it does. We're going to see how it actually impacts you because anxiety and stress doesn't just affect you in a physical way, it affects your whole person. So it affects how you think, how you feel, how you behave, what you do. It affects your whole being. So we're going to have a look at how that impacts you. But we need to also realize that how you react to stress will be very different to how I react to stress. And the things that are going to be useful for you to learn to cope with your stress are going to be different to someone else because it's all, you know, we're all individuals, we're all different. And so there's lots of different strategies that you can use, but there might be one that's more beneficial to you than others. So that's what we're going to have a wee chat about for the next sort of half an hour or so. Stress or anxiety is very prevalent. In fact, it's probably even more so prevalent now because people are on 24/7. People can be contacted by their work or by family or by anybody 24/7 with your mobile phones. You can get emails all times of the day and be contacted at all times of the day. And just by that very nature, you're not really given any real downtime. So stress is probably on the increase. And officially, we're told that about 28% of people suffer from a diagnosis of anxiety or stress. So that's people who've actually gone to the doctor and the doctor has said, you're suffering from anxiety or you're suffering from stress, and here's how we're going to help you manage that. That's a quarter of the population. 1 in 4, at least 1 in 4 people, nearly a third, And that's only the people that have actually gone to the doctor and said, I'm feeling a bit stressed or I'm feeling anxious. Well, what keeps what is it about what happens to us and what keeps it going? Because we know stress is something that we all have, but sometimes it gets out of control. Well, what maybe helps or maybe what maybe happens to make it maybe get more overwhelming is if you're just an anxious kind of person, there's people who are just born worriers, aren't there? You probably know people who are just born worrier, or maybe you're one yourself, and you worry if you've nothing to worry about, you're worrying. I have nothing, oh, then something bad must be going to happen because I have nothing to worry about at the minute. My mummy was a bit like that. She would worry that she'd no worries. And it's a personality trait. And maybe some people are quite happy in their worries. Do you know people like that that are quite content to sit and have a good old worry? But for most of us, it's probably more to do with ongoing stresses. And sometimes it's like buses, you know, if they come at the right time, it's all right. But if you get three things happening at once, if you have three major life events happen at once, maybe you have to move house, maybe there's a bereavement, or you know, maybe there's a financial crisis, and maybe if that all happens at the same time, that can be really overwhelming. And you can find it really difficult to deal with stress when they're piled on top of each other like that. If you get one at a time, it's maybe not as bad. And then we talk about this vicious cycle of anxiety. Once you start to feel anxious, you experience those sort of symptoms of stress, then you start to worry about feeling the symptoms of stress. Like, for example, for yourselves, particularly with your condition, um, the feeling of stress can maybe make you feel a wee bit more breathless. And if you're feeling a wee bit more breathless, that makes you panic a wee bit more. And when you panic a wee bit more, it affects your breathing and you become more breathless. So we see this vicious cycle of anxiety and it just sort of spirals out of control. So that's why we need to try and learn things to try and stop that from happening. So what is anxiety? So I always use this wee picture of the wee caveman and the big grizzly bear. Anxiety is something that we experience all the time. It exists to help us deal with stressful situations. And when we were back in the caves and we were sending the men out to fight, they were having to deal with saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and all. And in those situations, they had to feel, when they were stressed, it enabled them to do one of three things. It enabled them either to run away from the danger, or to fight the danger. So either they would beat up the woolly mammoth or they would run away from the woolly mammoth. And the most maybe unfortunate way to deal with stress is to freeze, because if you freeze, then you'll be got by the woolly mammoth. So that's maybe not the most effective way of dealing with stress. But those are three different reactions that you can have to stress. And it's built in, we are designed to have this reaction in our bodies in order to deal with a threatening situation. Now, the problem is that nowadays, you and me don't run into that many woolly mammoths or saber-toothed tigers. It depends if something gets loose from Belfast Zoo, sometimes maybe, but very rarely are we going to be running into this kind of difficulty. But unfortunately, our bodies are still designed to react to any kind of stress in the same way. So whenever we get a notice of another hospital appointment, or we get a big bill that we don't think we're going to be able to manage to pay, our body responds in the same way that it would have responded all those years ago whenever we were faced with a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger. And what happens is it becomes problematic because it persists and it interferes with our ability to get on with our everyday life. So why am I trying to tell you how to manage anxiety? Well, managing anxiety will help to improve your quality of life. It'll allow you to be more aware of the symptoms and your thinking, and hopefully help you to improve your knowledge of those coping strategies that can help you change your thinking. It can provide you with tools to cope, and it will hopefully give you back a sense of control. So when the wee caveman was going to be dealing with the hairy mammoth or the saber-toothed tiger, his body had to get prepared to either fight that danger or run away from it. And that's what this wee slide is showing you. This is what your body does in order to prepare to either fight or run away. So your body is getting ready for action. So the body does certain physiological and biological things in order to get ready for action. And one of the things it does is it produces adrenaline. So that shot of adrenaline is what sort of speeds up your breathing. It speeds up your blood pressure because the adrenaline is there in order to give you the strength that you need to fight. So everything is released to the muscles. All the nutrients and stuff are going to the muscles because the muscles are getting ready to either run away really quickly or to fight. So there's a physiological or a biological reason why your body responds in the way it does. So your pupils dilate because you have to be really fixed on your goal of either fighting or running away. Your mouth goes dry because your body is putting all its energy into the muscles and the running and the fighting muscles. So it's sort of slows down all the other processes that are happening. Your shoulders and your neck will get tense because all your muscles are starting to tense up. Your heart will beat more quickly because your heart's going, those muscles need lots and lots of oxygen and good oxygenated blood. So your heart's going quicker to prepare for that. Your breathing will get maybe fast and a wee bit shallow because your body said, I need more oxygen because I'm going to be doing something here. And you might sweat and your tummy might feel like it's got butterflies. And basically, you might feel that you need to go to the toilet. You might feel your bowels go when you're anxious, or you maybe feel you need to go to the toilet more frequently to urinate. And basically, that's just your body is trying to make itself more efficient to fight. So your body tries to get rid of any extra weight. So if you've got a full bladder or your bowel needs to move, if you're very anxious, your body will say, well, let's get rid of that extra weight. And that's why you maybe need to maybe you feel you need to go to the toilet more often. And it's basically just your body preparing for action. But if you're just reacting in this way to a big phone bill, then you're all that action, all that bodily anticipation for something that's going to happen. Well, where does that all go? Because you're only dealing with an electric bill. So this is where we need to maybe engage the brain and take back control of what's happening. And that's the kind of things we're going to be chatting about. So we need to understand that anxiety affects not just when we have those bodily symptoms, so we have the heart pounding and the breathing changes and we get sweaty, our stomach starts churning, maybe get tingling in your fingers and toes. That's just the blood racing to those places. When that starts to happen in your body, that then starts to affect how you think. And in your thinking, you're starting to worry more. You're getting distracted. You start to think the worst. Oh, my breathing's starting to go. I'm struggling to get a breath here. I'm really struggling to breathe. And then it might affect your behaviors. So you might get very restless or irritable. You might, if it's a longer term thing, you might not eat. It might put you off your food, or if you're like me, when I'm stressed, I eat all around me. So I eat bags of crisps when I'm stressed, which is why I'm the size I am. But it changes our eating habits, and then it also affects how we feel. So it's our emotions as well that get impacted. So what I'm trying to say here is those physical things happen for a biological reason, but that's not all that happens. Our whole person is affected whenever we are stressed or anxious. It affects how we think, it affects how we behave, and it affects how we feel. So it's really important that we learn how to get a handle on our anxiety and we learn how to cope with it. We are never going to do away with anxiety and stress because it's something that we have to have. So that's why we need to learn maybe how to cope with it and how to deal with it, because it's not something that's always going to go away. So it's important to learn how best to manage the anxiety and lessen its impact on your life. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to try and understand the causes and then try and see how we can reduce those physical symptoms. And we're going to try to see how you respond to your anxiety yourself. What's your personal response to anxiety? And what strategies then can you use that will help you to manage it? So reducing the physical symptoms, once we start to feel a wee bit anxious, what are the sort of things that we can do that maybe will nip it in the bud before it gets any worse? Well, a very useful thing to try and do is any form of relaxation or any type of meditation that maybe you would use, any of your mindfulness techniques or mindfulness tools. I'll talk to you in a wee bit about square breathing, and we would use square breathing as a way of dealing with panic, because it helps us to focus. We'll look at that in a wee minute, but it's really important that we have some kind of form of relaxation that we can use to try and help us to overcome those stressful feelings and get our breathing back into a normal pattern. Sometimes just doing, if your nurse has maybe taught you the sort of diaphragmatic breathing exercises, your respiratory nurse may have taught you some of these techniques. Sometimes it's just as simple as going over your breathing techniques, breathing in deeply through your nose and out slowly through your mouth. And if you remember nothing else, a really good breathing tip is to breathe in. Say you were breathing in for 2, then always breathe out for 4. So you always try to breathe out for twice as long as you've breathed in, right? So if I'm breathing in for 1, I'm breathing out for 2. Does that make sense? And if I'm breathing in for 2, I'm breathing out for 4. Okay? So even if you remember nothing else, if you're starting to get a wee bit breathless, just always remember, if you're breathing in for the count of 1, breathe out for 2. You're breathing in for the count of 2, breathe out for 4. And you can keep going if you like, but I would start to pass out after about breathing in for 3 or 4. So that's just something that you can do. That's a really easy breathing technique that your nurse has probably told you to do. And the rhythm of that breathing will help to slow the breathing down and help to slow all those other processes that are going on in your body biologically. That very simple breathing technique will help to slow everything down. So this is where we come to our square breathing. And square breathing is basically just exactly what I've told you, but what we advise people to do is to look for a square or a rectangle and just use that square or rectangle as a focus for you to breathe round. So what we do is we say, everybody's got either a phone or a book or a TV screen or a picture on the wall or a mirror. There's something in your room where you are now that will be either square or rectangle shaped. If it's a square, we breathe in and out, but we try and do what I said. A rectangle's better, is what I'm trying to say. A rectangle's a better shape. And if you breathe in on the short bit of the rectangle and breathe out on the longer bit of the rectangle, then it helps you to do that balanced breathing. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So if you're looking at the TV, or even if you're looking at your screen now and it's your computer screen or your phone screen, breathe in on the short end, breathe out on the longer part, breathe in on the short part, and breathe out on the longer part. And It's nothing magical. It's nothing, what this does is it just helps to divert your attention away from worrying about other things, and you're focusing on the square to help you and to assist you to do that nice, steady breathing. Does that make sense to everybody? Really simple wee technique that will help. And if you, as I say, if you remember nothing else, just remember this. Breathing in for 1 and out for 2, in for 2 and out for 4. And that will help to steady that breathing. And if we get the breathing under control, then the other things start to respond to that, and they'll start to, those other physical symptoms will start to lessen as well. And sometimes we just maybe our thinking gets very overwhelmed. When we start to get a wee bit panicky, our thoughts spiral out of control, and we think, oh, I'm never going to get another breath. Oh, this is awful. This is terrible. I'm going to end up, I'm not going to be able to breathe. We need to distract our brain from those sort of catastrophic thoughts. Now, there's nothing magical about any of this, but this is purely to distract you from thinking about the actual process of feeling out of breath. So what we do is we use these wee grounding exercises, and we've all got 5 fingers, hopefully. And what we do is we look at our 5 fingers and we think of 5 things that we can see. So you look around you and you say, what are 5 things you can see? I can see my phone, I can see the computer, I can see my coffee cup, I can see the calendar, I can see my bag. And 4 things that you feel. Well, I feel a bit warm. I'm feeling the desk that I'm sitting at. I'm feeling the seat that I'm sitting on. And I'm feeling my trousers are a wee bit tight because I had a big packet of crisps last night. So those are 4 things that I can feel. 3 things that I can hear. Do you get the idea? So we're going through the 5 senses. We've all got 5 senses and we've got 5 fingers. This is all just a bit of a ruse to trick your brain into thinking about something else instead of thinking about the fact that you're feeling a bit anxious. Okay? We're trying to like interrupt the brain's patterns of panicking, and we're interrupting it with a wee sideline and looking at these other things. Hopefully that makes sense to you. There's nothing magical about this, but it just helps that you're actually thinking about something else. It diverts your attention. And the other things that you can do if you're feeling up to it is maybe look at different activities that you can do that you enjoy. Even just getting up and having a wee bit of a dander about the house, getting a bit of time out. You're doing something that maybe makes you feel more relaxed, can help to lift your mind. There's lots of things down here. Some of them are more appropriate than others. Maybe you really enjoy reading. It depends what you're reading. Some of the books that I read, I actually, because I love a good murder mystery. And when you're getting to near the end of the book, I actually probably feel more anxious because I'm trying to find out who did it. And then I get all anxious about if they're going to get away with it or not. So it depends what you're reading, whether reading's going to help or not. But lots of different things that you might find relaxing for you, but it'll be something that you yourself will find. And I'm just making suggestions. You'll all have your own things. I love colouring in. So I do my colouring in with my lovely pens and my fancy books. As I've told you, I tell you this every time. My kids laugh at me because I say I buy the adult colouring books and they think, is it like porn? It's not porn. It's just adult colouring books. Oh dear. Anyway. So that what we want to do now is to have a look at how you respond to stress. What is it what way do you react when you are stressed? Because the way you react to stress is going to be different to how I react to stress, because we're all different. We're all different human beings. So as we go through this, I want you to ask yourselves these questions. When I'm faced with a stress, how do I respond to that stress? Do I stress inwardly? Do I go in on myself? Do I become quiet and withdrawn? Or do I express it outwardly? Do I get grumpy and do I shout and do I get irritated? Okay. Would I spend a lot of time thinking about the stress and ruminating? and turning it over in my mind? Or do I just blow up and react and just like a big pressure cooker, just explode? When you feel very stressed, does it make you feel like doing something? Do you feel you have to action and you have to get up and do something? Or does it make you actually feel exhausted and you feel like you can do nothing? These are all different ways that people find that they respond to a stressful situation. Do you feel after you've dealt with something stressful? Do you feel invigorated? I've dealt with that. Or do you feel guilty? Or how do you feel when you've tried to deal with something very stressful? Do you face things head on? Or do you weigh up all the options? Or do you just shut down and you can do nothing? My daughter, whenever she's faced with a stress, my daughter just literally shuts down. She can do nothing. She's like a wee rabbit caught in the headlights. And you have to tell her how she has to respond and what she needs to do to deal with the stress. She would really struggle with her anxiety. And here we go. Do I take on too much? All of us, and I'm being a bit sexist here, but us ladies, women in particular, do you take on too much because you can't say no? And then we're doing stuff and we can't say no and we get overwhelmed. We need to learn to say no, don't we? We need to say no. Actually, it's very nice of you to offer to come and visit, but actually I'm really fatigued at the moment and I would rather just have a bit of time on my own. Thanks very much. Or no, I can't look after the grandchildren because I'm not feeling 100%. So no, I'd rather not look after the grandchildren this week or today or whatever. Or do we just say yes because we don't like saying no? And then we get really stressed. So there's different personality types and all of those. And whatever way you answered those questions, this will show me what kind of personality type you are and how you face stress. So the fighter is the person who faces stress head on. Something happens and they react immediately, but they can be very angry and very irritable and they blow up. And that's how they deal with stress. And you might know people like that. You might be like that yourself. But that's how they deal with stress. It's all fiery and fireworks and all the rest of it. But then what tends to happen is they get over it quite quickly. On the other hand, the runner is the one who, so the fighter is the one who would have taken the hairy mammoth head on and beat the daylights out of the hairy mammoth or beat the daylights out of the saber-toothed tiger. The runner is the one who sees the saber-toothed tiger and takes to their heels and goes flying. So they're the ones who run. The runner tends to be somebody who feels really panicky, maybe feel really overwhelmed and want to avoid the situation or procrastinate. What about if you're a worrier or a ruminator? What worriers are like is worriers try to avoid stress at all costs. So they're very risk averse. So they might actually avoid doing things that they know make them feel a wee bit stressed. So some people might avoid going out and being in social settings. Some people might avoid having to make telephone calls, having to, do things like that. That's the worrier will avoid or put off or just try to avoid doing anything that they know is going to make them feel a wee bit stressed. The freezer, this is the one that maybe wouldn't do very well with the saber-toothed tiger. The freezer is the person who just gets paralyzed by inaction. They're the rabbit in the headlights. They're the ones who just get stuck. And it's very difficult to see when someone is like this. And as I say, my daughter would be like this. When she becomes overwhelmed with stress, she is literally paralyzed. She can do nothing. She is numb. She can hardly process any information in her brain. And there's an apathy that comes over her. And it's a really unfortunate reaction to stress. But there's things we can do, and we'll look at that in a minute. And then we've got the pleasers, the people who can't say no, the people who have to be perfect, and people who struggle with boundaries. And then the one we all maybe would aspire to be is the thriver, somebody who can face the stress and say, there it is, there's that stress, but here's how I'm going to deal with it. And that's all it is. This is this stress, and I'm going to cope with it and deal with it, and then we'll get by it. That's the thriver, and that's who we all aspire to be. And at different times of your life, or even at different times of the day, you could be any one of these. You could react in any one of these ways. We're not all going to be just one or other. There's going to be aspects of these personality types in each of us. So what are the strategies? Well, if you're a fighter is the person who is drawn to action. So what's actually good for the person who responds in that physical way is to do something physical. So if you find you are a physical person, get up and go for a wee walk. My wee boy reacts to stress in a physical way, and we've bought him a
Jeremy
bag.
and
So
Beatrice,
he goes out
is there
to
much room for that seat?
his punching bag in the garage, and he beats the daylights out of the punching bag whenever he gets very stressed. He's punched it that hard, he punched it off the flipping wall. But that's how he copes. The runner, or the person who is running away, avoiding, what we need to do is talk to ourselves, and talk to ourselves in a positive way. We talk about reframing, and we talk about maybe replacing negative thoughts with more positive thoughts. And instead of maybe thinking, this is awful, this is a catastrophe, to break it down and say, well, what actually is the problem here? Reframe it. I've got an awful electric bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. So let's reframe it. Okay, there's the electric bill. It's more than I anticipated, but perhaps I could contact the electric company and ask them about a payment plan. Maybe I could see about getting in a meter that's maybe going to make things easier, so I don't get these bills like this all the time. You know, it's about thinking of reframing things and chunking, breaking things down into more manageable parts. And I'm sure I've said this to you before. I really like the analogy. You know, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one spoonful at a time. So you break things down into smaller, more manageable chunks, and you do a wee bit at a time. The worrier. If people are worriers, and there's some people need to worry. And what I say, and then you might think this is really odd, but what I've would say to people is, allow yourself, if you're a worrier, schedule worry into your day. Say to yourself, right, from 4 o'clock till 4:15, I will worry away to my heart's content. But then from 4:15 on, that's it. I've done my worrying. I've set it to the side. So if you allow yourself that time to let yourself worry, but put a break on it, it is actually quite helpful, because I would do this. Sometimes journaling helps. And what we mean by journaling is just writing down the things that are worrying us, writing down the things that are annoying us. And actually, sometimes when you get them written down and you look at them in black and white, it actually puts things maybe into a wee bit more of perspective. And even just the process of writing it down helps us to slow our thinking and slow our feelings. And then using the distraction techniques is really useful for people who worry. For the freezer, it's really important that we encourage people who freeze to talk about it and express their feelings and give them time to recover. And then the pleaser, we need to learn to say no. They're very helpful phrases. These are helpful phrases that I use. Let me think about that. When somebody asks you something that you don't want to do, or asks you something that you feel is overwhelming, let me think about that. Or I'll get back to you on that. And Tom might know that Gemma, I maybe tell Gemma this every now and again. If she's maybe asking me to do something, let me think about that. I'll get back to you on that. So that's a good phrase to have in your toolbook. Okay. And what about for everybody? So that's all the different types, how they would deal with stress. But what about all of us? I think for all of us, it's really important to maintain our physical health and well-being. And what we mean by that is, look, how we eat and sleep and how we physically maintain our bodies is a really important way of helping us to manage stress. So it's really important that we eat properly and regularly. We get enough energy into our bodies in order to maintain our bodies and maintain our brains. It's really important that we get enough sleep. And sometimes that, if we're tired, we tend to be a bit more irritable and we're more likely to sort of fall into stress quicker if we're very fatigued. Meditation and relaxation, picking one that suits you, and we'll be doing a wee talk about relaxation in a couple of months. Something that I have found really useful, and I've actually been talking to my staff about this just the last week, of having an attitude of gratitude. And I don't know if any of you are aware, there's a book that was quite popular there a few years ago, and it's called Atomic Habits. I don't know if any of you are aware of this book or you've heard of it, but it's like one of these self-help books. But what the guy's premise is that we can make tiny, tiny changes in our lives, but those tiny changes can have big impacts on who we are. And one of the tiny changes that I have encouraged my staff to do this week is to set their alarm for 2 minutes earlier than they normally would set their alarm. Just 2 minutes. Set their alarm earlier. And when the alarm goes off, to use those 2 minutes and to think of something that they are grateful for, and to spend a minute thinking about things that they're grateful for. And the other thing, and I think it's important that we all do this too, is to spend 1 minute thinking about things that you're good at. What are you good at? Are you good at being a friend? Are you good at being a granda? Are you good at being a person who points out other people's poor grammar? There's always something that we're all good at. And sometimes it does no harm for us to just affirm ourselves and think of, what is it that I'm good at? What am I good at? I'm good at telling people what to do. My kids would tell me I'm a great delegator. I love bossing people about. So that's what I'm good at. But 2 minutes being grateful for something, and then what am I good at? And it's a very effective tool. And if you're grateful for someone, tell them. Go and tell them that you're grateful for them. And grateful people are generally happier people. And it's a great habit to form, to be a grateful person, to have that attitude of gratitude. And it's really important that we maintain meaningful connections with other people. So having somebody that you can talk to, your family or your friends or, whoever it is, it's really good to talk. And have a clear sense of your values. This is maybe something we don't always talk about, but we need to think, what is important to me? What matters to me most? Will this thing that I'm worried about, will this matter in a month's time, in 2 months' time, in a year's time? What are the principles that I live by? What do I stand for? Because your values will act as the compass for your life, guiding all of your thoughts and decisions. And for some of us, maybe it's something we don't really maybe give a lot of thought to. But I think it's quite important for us to know what is our compass, and that compass will help to inform some of those thoughts and decisions that we make. Okay. And managing worry, we've already said about having worry time. So set yourself a wee bit of time to do your worrying, and then you can get on with the rest of your day. The other thing you can do is to use a worry tree. And this wee tree, especially coming into Christmas, just looks like a wee Christmas tree. And in your worry tree here, you can see what we do is, first of all, we notice the worry. So we say, right, this is what I'm worried about. And you ask yourself, what is it? What am I worried about? And then the next question you should ask yourself, when you've identified that you're worrying and what you're worrying about, ask yourself, can I do something about this worry? Okay, so the worry might be, I have an electric bill and it's more than I can afford. Is there something that I can do about it? Well, yes, there is something you can do about it. You can contact the electric company and look at, as we said before, look at a payment plan, look at another way of doing it, looking at getting a meter in, looking at breaking down the payments, etc., etc. So you can put in an action plan and you can schedule to get things done. And then hopefully that means then you can change your focus of attention and stop worrying about that thing. But what if it's something, if you're worrying about something and you can't do anything about it? And there's lots of things maybe that we worry about that we have no control over. Isn't that right? There's things that, preoccupy us and worry us. But when we actually look at it objectively, we can't have any impact or effect on that worry. So, and please forgive me for being blunt, but that worrying, that energy that you spend worrying then about that thing that you can't do anything about, that's a terrible waste of energy, isn't it? If you can't actually affect change on this thing, you are wasting energy, which is very precious when you're not well and when you're dealing with a chronic condition. All of your energy is precious, and we need to choose what we use our energy on, and we can choose to continue to worry and use our energy to worry, or we can say, look, I can't actually do anything about this. This is outside of my control. I don't have any control over this issue. So I have to be able to let that go. And that's maybe when you bring in your distraction techniques and things like that, and you try and think of other things. You talk to somebody about it, but try and change your focus, because, wasting your time worrying about something that you've got no control over is a really unfortunate waste of energy. Maybe you need to make a wee pros and cons list to help you with decision making and things like that, and ways round the worry. But always try and figure. Some of us can't figure out what it is we're worried about. Some of us just have that natural sort of feeling of sort of anticipation, and it's hard to know what the worry is. But if we try and figure out what, and name it, sometimes it can be very helpful. And this wee slide here says, practice in the light what might be useful in the dark. And what do you mean by that? Well, when you're not feeling anxious, when you're not feeling stressed, practice some of those wee techniques that we were talking about. Practice the breathing, practice your square breathing, practice your breathing in for 1 and out for 2. Practice those things, so that when things get difficult and when you face something stressful, then that technique comes to you automatically, and you're not having to put a lot of thought into it because you've already been practicing. And this is part of that being mentally fit. If you want to be physically fit, you have to, maybe practice something every day. You don't just become a pro footballer just by going out and kicking a football about the day before. You have to put energy and action into becoming that fit, and there you have to put a bit of energy and a bit of effort into becoming mentally fit. And some of these wee techniques that we're talking about it will help to maintain that mental fitness, so that when maybe things do go wrong and we are faced with the stress, we have those techniques in our bag. We can pull out that wee breathing technique. We can pull out that distraction technique. We can use that when things are more difficult. Hopefully that makes sense. And sometimes we might need to go to the doctor and ask for a wee tablet that can help us with the anxiety. There are different medications and things that can help. We talk to your doctor about that. There's other talking therapies that might be helpful, or counselling if there's a particular concern that you maybe need help to talk about and process through. Keeping a wee diary of your mood and just seeing how your mood improves, and seeing if your mood, if your physical health affects your mental well-being, and see if your mood is affected by your physical health, and just seeing how that all sort of fits in. Getting a new hobby, doing crosswords or Sudoku or any of those sorts of things, keep the mind active, keep the brain ticking, keep the mind nice and fit, but also learning to relax. And that's us. That's us. Any questions? I shall. Everybody can unmute now and ask me any questions if you like, and I'll stop sharing. Anybody, any questions?
No.
Is it Jerry there? Jerry, I am loving the guitar on your wall. That's a nice guitar. You unmute. What do I say?
That's 104, Patricia.
Lovely. I have a wee boy who is well, a wee boy. He's 17 and he's 6'2". Like he's my
Yes.
baby, and he plays jazz guitar.
Very good.
And he loves guitars. I'm just noticing yours. He would love that. It's a lovely guitar.
that's an Epiphone.
Very nice.
Let's see, I've got another 3.
Lovely.
They're tuned to different tunings.
But what kind of music do you like?
The old stuff, from the 60s and the 70s, the Stones, the Hollies, the Beatles,
Oh, brilliant.
Garfunkel, Cat
Yeah.
Stevens, all the golden oldies is me.
Brilliant. That's lovely to see. It's lovely to see. Now, anybody, any questions, or will I go and say cheerio?
Can I just ask you something, Patricia? You mentioned earlier on about that 4-week course. That's going to be, how's that going to be split up, that 4-week course?
So it will run across 4 weeks. There'll be different things, different aspects of managing anxiety will be looked at each week, but there'll also be relaxation techniques and things, actual wee sort of different wee things will be used. We'll be teaching different wee things each week of how to cope with anxiety. It was very much in the early stages at the moment. But I think part of the reason we'd like to do it is because we think sometimes people, when they get together, can support each other. And so part of it is just to allow people to be together in a group and get to know each other and support each other. So it's kind of not an experiment, but we're going to do it as a pilot. And we're hoping I think we can accommodate between maybe 6 and 10 people. And we'll try and run it, as I say, it will be sort of springtime, I would say, spring, maybe early summer. I'll let you know more about it when I know more about it. But myself and the OT who works in the Macmillan unit up in Antrim are hoping to do this. But it's just if anybody felt that they maybe would like to explore this a wee bit further, there might be a wee opportunity there.
That's great. Thanks for that, Patricia.
All right. Well, will I take my leave?
I'll just stop the recording. So, well, Patricia, thank you very much indeed, Patricia, for that.
Thanks,
Thank
Patricia.
you.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you all again.
And Patricia, wishing you a very Merry Christmas as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I hope you have a lovely Christmas.
My sister's coming over from Spain with all of her children and grandchildren. So I might be employing quite a few of those anxiety management techniques. So if my hair wasn't white now, it would be white after that.